Iran's strategy has expanded in targeting oil and gas facilities in the Gulf region, dramatically increasing the cost of this war. Tehran has hit all 6 oil-rich Gulf states: the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. And fast enough, it became clear that the targets were not just US assets, but also hotels, ports, airports, and energy infrastructure. Iran maintains that it is not at war with regional countries, but it is with the US. According to experts, Iran's apparent strategy is to internationalize the war to dramatically increase the collective price of the conflict for the United States, but also for Gulf nations, which have influence over Washington and could pressure President Trump to de-escalate. The rationale is that Gulf monarchies would do whatever it takes to maintain their reputation of being a safe and stable haven for business. In the past, it worked, as they have repeatedly acted as mediators to avoid escalations. But this time around, the stakes are much higher for Iran. This is about survival.
Iran is fighting a war of existence. It's an existential war for them, and I think that's why you see them going after different targets around them. But this cannot continue forever, and I think we've reached a point in which they're raising the ante to unprecedented levels.
The impact has been massive. Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway where 20% of global energy passes through. Qatar, one of the world's top natural gas producers, stopped the production of liquefied natural gas over drone attacks. Saudi Arabia's state oil company closed its biggest oil refinery. That's one of the biggest plants in the world, producing more than 500,000 barrels of oil a day. In Dubai, debris fell on a port, disrupting logistics. Meanwhile, in Europe, gas prices soared by nearly 50%. As the price of the war has become higher, Gulf countries are facing a dilemma.
We're heading towards some sort of escalation, and it's unfortunately taking a trajectory that's not very healthy. The million-dollar question that's been asked is really, what is the threshold of GCC states? What will it be for them to really enter into the operation and begin to attack Iran?
Qatar's foreign ministry spokesperson said that the country reserves the right to retaliate, saying that a price has to be paid. On Sunday, Qatar used its air force to shoot down 2 Iranian bombers, the first report that Iran had also sent warplanes towards the Gulf other than missiles and drones. So while some hope the path for diplomacy is not completely shut, the region is walking into uncharted territory.
Shalom. First and foremost,
Bahrain.
all praises, honor, and glory to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of the great millstone who rule and teach well. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Barakadam, to the Seer Akim, pushing his gospel to the 4 corners of the earth, laboring his truth in all diligence, righteousness, and sincerity, keeping the faith and testimony of our Lord Yahushai. And to the few sincere Aquath, listen and learn as well. As always, to you I say shalom. So this is a beautiful and exciting time to be alive. We literally seeing the end of the world manifest right before our eyes. And see what this conflict is happening over there in Western Asia. All right, this thing is spiraling out of control. You know, and if you listen to Western media, they'll have you believe that they really, you know, doing damage against Iran, which, you know, Iran is taking some damage, but guess who's taking more damage? The West, okay? Babylon, all right? The small hats. You have U.S. military bases that are being taken out, as you saw in this video. You know, oil refineries are being taken out. You know, the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. You know, they've been shutting down oil refineries. Now you have a 50% jump in the price of oil and natural gas in Europe. All right. You also have now news coming out that Trump saying that he's going to completely sever trade between Spain and NATO. So you have a lot going on, you see, and this is all the doing of Yahweh Bashemel Shai. See, when you understand that nothing on this earth is happening by the will of man. Okay, that everything that's happening right now is by the will of the Heavenly Father. All right, I believe that's Daniel 4th chapter. All right, let's go there real quick. Okay, Daniel, I believe it's 17. Yeah, Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men, which the basis of men would be Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, which currently rules over the earth. And see, we're in the time where, as it says in 2nd Ezra 6 and 9, that Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. All right, so the end of Esau's world is going out with violence. Okay, same way these devils came in, the same way that they gonna go out, man. All right, these Edomites, they're going in the same way as ancient Rome. All right, and the thing about it is, some of them realize it, but they don't have the power to stop it. All right, like we're really knocking on the door of nuclear war here. But see, we understand that it's not going to go nuclear until the MOTB comes, which in this lesson, we'll get into it to show you that all of these things that are happening overseas, that is disrupting the global markets, okay, which in turn is going to lead to them, because you have to understand as well that these world leaders, they all agree on bringing in this NWO. You know what I'm saying? They all agree on bringing in digital IDs and digital currencies and things of that nature, but they're warring at the top for supremacy over who's going to control what. Okay, that's why all these wars are going on, you see. But the one thing they all do agree on is that, okay, we need to control our populations more. We need to have them on digital IDs and digital currency. All right, they all do agree on that. But there is a price to these conflicts, okay? And when you look at what Iran is doing in that region, they're not just firing off missiles just to make it look good, man. No, they're the missiles that they're firing off, they're hitting strategic assets, okay, of their enemies in that region, man. Okay, so what this is doing really is this is increasing, as you heard in this video, this is increasing the cost of war for the small hats in America. All right, and now you have all these other nations being drawn in as well. Okay, you have France now. They sent their only one. France has sent their one aircraft carrier over there to the Persian Gulf. You see, you have Germany getting involved. You have UK. They done sent fighters over there. All right, they haven't pledged to put boots on the ground, but they're sending military assets to that region. All right, so you have all these major nations now being drawn in. Now you have Saudi. Okay, you have Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. All right, Turkey now is being drawn into this thing, man. So the prophecy of Jeremiah 49:20, that the least of the flock shall draw them out, this thing is being fulfilled. Okay, you have the small hats now, because really this is the small hats war. Okay, this is not America's war. This is not Europe's war. This is the small hats war. But they just drawn America into it. All right, so now America is in. Okay, tag me in. All right, America has been tagged into this war, man. And guess what? So is everybody else. Okay, this is what you call the beginning stages of a world war. Okay, all these nations are beginning to be gathered together. All right, when you read Joel the 3rd chapter, it says, let's get it. Okay, wake up the mighty man, right? Let all the men of war draw near. And see, all these nations are going to come together to converge upon the Holy Land. You see, and we're coming into the warmer months of the year. We're coming into the real new year come April 1st. The Passover is coming up. So, we see every Passover that things really turn up significantly, man. So we already know to come, this summer, more than likely, they really going to start moving these troops, into that region. And, I'm talking boots on the ground, heavy artillery. Okay, to make their way, the kings of the east to make their way across the river Euphrates to converge upon the land of the small hats, man. All right. So a lot is coming down the pipe. A lot is going down. This is Joel 3:9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. And that's what's going on right now. These, former weaker nations, they're now raising up and saying that we are strong too. Okay, we can go blow for blow with America and ain't nobody going to do a damn thing about it. Okay, that's the attitude now, man, because you look at a country like Iran, Iran would have never, taken this type of stance against America 20 years ago, 30, 40. Okay. But this is happening now because, as we read in Daniel 4, that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Okay, these nations do the will that the Lord want them to do. You see? Let the weak say, I'm strong. Okay, and this is, China has already pledged to support Iran. Russia is also there. North Korea is there as well. India, Pakistan. Okay, so you have the kings of the East, man. We see what's going on. All right, America's getting ready to separate from NATO and the EU. NATO and the EU was getting ready to go and join with Russia and China because they also see what's going on over there. Okay, they see that. Wait, hold on, wait a minute. This war, right? America talk all this tough talk about we're the biggest, baddest military. No nation can challenge us. We go in and make quick work of anybody. But here it is, we're on day 4 of this war, and Iran is, has no surrender in sight. Okay, Iran is looking real strong right now, man. Okay, so this is sending a message to the other nations in that region that listen, if Iran can hold its own against Babylon the Great and the small hats, okay, then they can too. So this is going to put a battery in the back of those, smaller, weaker nations in that region to join forces with Russia, China, Iran, and, Saudi and all them other nations, man. Everything is coming together, right? Verse 11, assemble yourselves, right? So the Lord is assembling these nations, man. He's the one that's put the spirit on these leaders to get into this conflict. And come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat or Yahweh Shaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So this is, all right, the season of judgment for these nations, man. Okay. And this is the determination of the Lord. And what have the men of the Lord been telling you, man? Okay, that eventually this time would come to where these prophecies will be fulfilled. And we've seen it happen right now. All right. Once again, a very exciting time to be alive. Okay, let's get this video as well.
France wanted absolute.
All right, with France here. Okay, because France is now in this conflict. They're sending their carrier over there. You know what I'm saying? And they're talking about tensions. No, man, this is past tensions. Okay, we're in full blown war here. All right, this is way past the point of tensions and things being tight. Nah, man, they letting missiles fly. Okay, and I believe that Iran has hit Cyprus. Okay, but Cyprus is a territory of France. All right, and they hit a French base as well. You know what I'm saying? So France is now being drawn into this thing, but you'll see. Let's check this out.
France wanted absolutely nothing to do with this Iran war. Macron was so opposed that he personally called the US and Israeli strikes an outbreak of war and demanded an emergency UN Security Council meeting and made it publicly known that France was sitting this one out completely. But despite all this, Iran found the time to send suicide drones into a French military hangar at a naval base in Abu Dhabi and set the whole facility on fire. This is when President Macron convened an emergency National Defense and Security Council meeting at the Elysee Palace within hours and confirmed that French forces had been struck and ordered France's only aircraft carrier to abandon its Baltic Sea deployment and redirect to Eastern Mediterranean immediately. That carrier will take roughly 12 days to arrive, and when it does, it will...
And see, when you really look at where Europe stands in this whole war, all right, they really have no significant power to give, all right, into this conflict, man. Here it is, France, they have no real army. Okay, France, they have one aircraft carrier. Okay, they have only one. You see, and this thing can easily be taken out by an Iranian missile, and that's all she wrote. Okay, and furthermore, let's not forget that Europe has been significantly weakened over the past 4 years with this Ukraine war. All right, Europe is pretty much bankrupt. You see, so they don't have, what I'm saying, and also keep in mind that a lot of European soldiers have died in Ukraine in that war effort, man. So they really have nothing significant to contribute in any substantial way, for NATO forces, man. So what's going to end up happening is that once China and Russia, get involved into this war, and the other Eastern kings, get involved, what I'm saying? Europe is not going to want no parts of that, because they're going to see, oh, well, goddamn, okay, here it is. This is not our war. The small has jumped us off. America is involved in it. Our interests are being hit, and America is not doing nothing about it. So you know what they're going to do, according to Revelation 17 and 16? All right, they're going to hate the whore, as well as, because of the sanctions and the tariffs that Trump is putting on them, and all the, harsh talk that he's been saying against them. All right, NATO and the EU, which is, referring to the 7 heads and the 10 horns, all right, which the beast rides on, all right, and which the whore rides on, Salakia. Okay, they're going to separate, all right? They're going to move away from America, and they're going to join with the kings of the East, okay, in this Third World War. And they are going to shoot their missiles over to America, Babylon the Great, and burn this place up with fire. That's what's going to happen according to prophecy, okay? Yeah, but these European nations, man, they're significantly weakened. They don't have any real stake in the game. Okay, they're really only getting involved in this because of this NATO alliance, but that's all that's about to change real soon.
Likely joined the USS Abraham Lincoln already in the region, creating the largest concentration of Western naval power in the Middle East since the 1991 Gulf War. On top of that, we have UK and Germany warning Iran that continued attacks on the Gulf will be met with direct European military action. Iran has now turned a third nuclear nation against itself. France wanted...
Yeah, man, it's going down. Okay, let's get this as well here. All right, this is from Reuters. Middle East conflict widens as Israeli-U.S. strikes again hit Iran. Oil soars and shares slide. All right, it's not an endless war. Netanyahu on U.S.-Israel fight with Iran. U.S. shuts embassies in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Lebanon. Source says Israel planned 2-week campaign, but moving faster. Markets tumble as Middle East energy is disrupted. Okay, so, one consequence of this war already is that global markets are tanking. Okay, because when you look at that region, over there, they pretty much supply a large amount of energy, all right, to the global supply market, man. So, with those refineries being shut down and hit, and assets over there being taken out, that's going to be grounds for, a lot of nations to take an economic hit, okay? It says here, Israeli and U.S. forces pounded targets across Iran on Tuesday, prompting Iranian retaliatory strikes against around the Gulf as the conflict spread to Lebanon, rattled global markets, and sent oil prices sharply higher. 4 days into the war, U.S. President DJT told reporters that the U.S. military had struck numerous Iranian naval and air targets, saying that, quote, just about everything has been knocked out. And that's a goddamn lie, okay, because Iran, they got plenty more fuel in the tank, okay? It's really America that's falling behind in this war, you see? Because you have to keep in mind, America, they're fighting a war 6,000 miles away from home, and the only thing that they have is what they brought over there with them. You see, and again, Iran is strategically, all right, eliminating their ability to resupply their aircraft carriers, because they've been taking out, aircraft carriers as well. I'm saying they've been bombing U.S. Refueling stations over in that region. They've been bombing military bases. Okay, so a lot of that American and small hat infrastructure has been taken out. Okay, so they're not really in a position to go into this long range war, man. All right. Also, all the missiles, the hypersonic. See, now Iran really about to get wicked, man. Okay, because what you saw happen over the past 3 days, that was Iran firing off their old stuff. Okay, they let the old stuff go first, but now they about to really step really into the hypersonic, the high tech weaponry that they got, man. Okay, so now you really about to see it turn up like you never seen before, and that's why Netanyahu now is scrambling. Okay, the West is scrambling, trying to figure out what they're gonna do, how they can stay in this war, man. Because Iran right now, they wasn't expecting Iran to be moving like this. Okay, they made a major miscalculation about the capabilities of Iran. And it's even reports coming out now. That Iran is saying that they can keep bombing at this same pace for 90 days. Okay, so they got plenty of missiles to go around, and of course they're getting support from Russia and China as well, because Iranian manufacturing capability has not been impacted at all, and the U.S. can't keep up, and Israel damn sure can't keep up, man. So this is turning out bad for the West, but of course in the Western media, they're going to try to, save face and make it look like, they're tougher than what they are, what I'm saying? But all this is a goddamn lie, okay? That's why you can't really tap into the CNN and the Fox News, because all they're going to give you is propaganda, all right? You got to get into the real sources coming from that region that are telling you what's really going on, to get the full picture. Trump also sought to justify the assault on Iran, saying he had ordered the campaign because he had a, quote, feeling Iran would attack after negotiations over its nuclear program stalled. And these devils have been looking to get at Iran for over 40 years. So Iran, over this time, has been building up their military, building up their missile arsenal, building, because they've been known for a long time that, okay, one day, all right, Esau is going to come for us, man. So we got to be ready when this thing goes down. All right, and sure enough, Iran is living up to its capabilities. You see, in response to the fierce assault, Iranian drones struck the U.S. embassy in Saudi Arabia after previously hitting the mission in Kuwait. Washington shut both embassies as well as its embassy in Lebanon, and ordered non-emergency government personnel and their families to leave much of the Middle East. All right, so America wanted that smoke, and yeah, they're getting it. Right now, we can get to a few of these articles right here dealing with the implications it's having, on these the world economy. So this right here is from Fortune. The war in Iran could lead to a guaranteed global recession because of one choke point that is crucial to the world economy, analyst says. All right, so we know a lot of oil refineries are being taken out. The Strait of Hormuz is being shut down, and that's a major choke point for a lot of oil and goods that come through that region to get to the West. Okay, so you have to think about it, right? When the price of oil goes up, it already has, slightly. But when the longer that this war goes on, all right, because it's going to take a few days, to some weeks for, that price to reflect in these Western markets, but it's not going to take that long. All right, but you have to think about it. These trucking companies, which are already struggling, added fuel costs to transport the fuel, that's going to affect business. You see, the pharmaceutical industry, which the base for a lot of the drugs involve petroleum. Okay, that's going to be affected, by these oil refineries being hit, and these trade routes being cut off. All right. So food is going to be affected, jobs are going to be affected, all right, and the lives of the everyday citizens is going to be affected, So things are about to get real bad, all right, but this is what happens in a war, okay? Life will never be the same, man. So reading into this, on Sunday, a day after U.S. and Israeli forces began raining missiles across Iran, an oil tanker docked off the coast of Oman burst into flames. The same day, maritime tracking organizations announced tankers were targeted by more projectiles in the waters north of the Arabian Peninsula. Right? I want to get straight to the point. Yeah, it says here, renewed conflict in Iran and the regime's reprisal attacks across the Middle East have thrust the strait back to the center of recession fears, as analysts warn that even a partial or prolonged disruption of petroleum supply could shock the world economy into contraction. And we'll show you that this is already happening, right? Now, with the weekend's attacks, experts are warning that triple-digit crude oil prices could be the least of the world's concerns. Call Allah y'all by Shmel Shai. If the strait stays shut down long enough, it could amount to an assured hit for the global economy. A prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz is a guaranteed global recession. So you're hearing this, all right? So if this Strait of Hormuz continues to be shut down for a prolonged period of time, this is going to lead to a guaranteed global recession. Okay, hence what we've been talking about through the spirit, the Great Depression 2.0. All right, which look at the situation happening, especially in America right now. Okay, jobs, job creation is at an all-time low, pretty much non-existent. People are losing jobs. AI is taking over. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think is going to happen with this being added into it, man? Things are only going to get significantly worse, which these people ain't ready for, man. So soon you're going to be seeing revolts in the streets, okay? People not going to be able to feed themselves, all right? The government's going to shut down again, all right? People not going to be getting benefits, all right? They're going to collapse the banks. They're going to collapse the economy. They're going to take your 401k. They're going to take your retirement. All of that's about to go, all right? As it says in 2 Ezra 6, the full storehouses shall be found empty because business is going to come to a halt. All right, then you're going to have sleeper cell attacks on American soil, man. So look, there's a lot that's going to come down the pipe, man. Okay, people are worried about war overseas. Well, guess what? It's about to be wars in the streets of America, Babylon the Great, and the West, period. That's what the Lord is setting up, man, because wow, this is the manifestation of the end of this wicked world. It says here, it's not just oil. Around 1/5 of globally traded liquefied natural gas moved through the Strait of Hormuz in 2024, right? With about 38% of total crude oil flowing through, the passage is essential for Gulf exporters, while workarounds do exist, including existing pipelines that crisscross their way through the Arabian Peninsula. Their limited capacity would struggle to make up for flows that would be lost in a full closure of the strait, leaving the global market particularly susceptible to any sustained disruption. Okay, now let's go to this one. All right, check this out. Dow closes down 400 points after falling as much as 1,200 points as Iran conflict volatility continues. All right, we ain't got to read into it, but the point is that this war is already affecting on day 4. Okay, this war is already affecting the global markets, man. So this is an omen, this is a sign of things to come, that these devils, what I'm saying, we already know, we've been telling you through the spirit that they're about to bring in this NWO, this MOTB real soon, man. All right, everything is set up and ready to go, because they're going to crash this current world economy, and they already got the new system ready to go. All right, now they're not going to fully get the NWO off how they want to, because they're going to run into straits, but the prophecy of the MOTB is going to be fulfilled because it's the will of the Lord. All right, but shortly after that, this third world war is going to go nuclear, and Yahweh Shai is going to return. All right, so all these things are about to happen super fast, man. It's not going to take long at all. All right, then you have your boy Jamie Dimon. You know what I'm saying? He always coming out and running his mouth about something. So now he's saying banks may be targets after Iran strikes. All right. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, backed the U.S.-Israel strikes on Iran as a necessary move against long-running threats. But he didn't sugarcoat the fallout for Wall Street. He warned that banks should expect cyber attacks, okay? And have they not been talking about cyber attacks? When you watch that movie Leave the World Behind that came out a few years ago, There was a cyber attack that knocked out the whole East Coast. Banks were shut down. People were, upset, couldn't get their money. People started raiding stores. You know what I'm saying? There was fighting going on in the streets. Okay, these are the things that are about to happen, man. And this is the perfect excuse. This war for these devils to bring in this digital system. All right. So they warning about cyber attacks and T incidents as retaliation ramps up. Speaking at a CNBC interview on Monday, Diamond said the military action was overdue to curb Iran's destabilizing role in the region. But his sharper warning was for financial firms. Quote, the odds of cyber attacks and T incidents are now meaningfully higher, and banks are squarely in the crosshairs. It's a rare public prediction from one of the street's steadiest voices, and it carries extra weight given JP Morgan's global scale. All right. So this, this warning is going out, and this is what you have to look forward to, man. Okay, on top of military drafts that they about to bring about real soon, because they're gonna have to put boots on the ground at some point. And right now, they don't have the personnel to be able to put any significant numbers on the ground in that region. So what they did a few years ago when they put that draft mandate out, anybody 18 to 26 is going to be automatically in the draft. All right, so you won't have a lot of draft dodgers. Okay, you're going to have a lot of dissent of these policies that are about to come down the pipe, and that's why they got these camps set up, man. Because anybody that refused to go, or they don't want to get shipped overseas, well, they're going to throw your ass into a camp, or they're going to make your ass disappear. All right. So it's one or the other, man. So, hey, look, we're in these times where, hey, the judgment of the Lord is coming down. And, hey, man, the man of the Lord has been telling you, for you Israelites to repent, get right, because nothing good is coming to this earth, man. Okay, we're in a time of judgment. You see? And when you get let's go 2nd Ezra 15 real quick, because the small hats in America, they have woken up the boar. All right. When you read 2nd Ezra 15 in verse 28, okay, check this out. Behold, in horrible vision and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, meaning they're going to come out with a great army. Okay, so watch what you see in the news with Saudi Arabia real soon, man. They're already involved in the war, but it's going to come to the point where they're going to start actually getting active in this thing. All right, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. And you got to keep in mind that Ishmael is a wild man. All right, the scriptures refer to Ishmael as the wild man. You know what I'm saying? Like these Arabs, man. They'll pull up with a bomb, strapped to their chest. All right, and they'll blow themselves up. All right, that's what kind of individuals that you're dealing with when you deal with Ishmael. Okay, when you deal with the Saudi Arabians. All right, they're a wild group of people, man. All right, so combined with the Carmanians, which is the wild boar. All right, you know what I'm saying? You barking up the wrong tree, E. Okay. Verse 30. Also the Carmanians, which is another word for the Persians. All right, you can look that up on your own time. Raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. Okay, and a wild boar is a very strong, very aggressive, all right, very intelligent animal. Okay, and brother had brought it out earlier that wild boars that they hold grudges. Okay, they also hold grudges, man. So, you know what I'm saying? So these Carmanians, these Iranians, they remember going way back, 40 plus years, even going back to the time of 1979, where they finally overthrew the American monarchy over Iran, and they got their country back, man. Like, they remember all that. Okay, they remember all the slander, all the lies, all the rhetoric that's been said against Iran over the years. Now, America done took out Khomeini, which he's now being seen as a martyr in that whole region, man. So now they got a battery in their back. They now done raised the red flag of revenge. All right, so these wild boars about to go forth raging, man. Okay, now they have a reason to really turn it up to the next level. You see? So this thing is getting bad real fast. This is only day 4 of this war with no end in sight. All right. And with tensions super high. You see? But yeah, them Carmanians, they remember everything. Okay. So this is fuel to their fire. All right. Shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them. So Iran is going to join battle with Saudi Arabia in this third world war. Okay, this is what the prophecy is saying here. And shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians, which the modern day Assyrians is America. Okay, Babylon the Great. Verse 31, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these shall be trouble bled and keep silence through their power and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and in their host shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. So expect the worst case scenario. Okay, let's get Revelation 16. You know, expect the worst case scenario, all right, for these small hats and Babylon the Great and their allies as well, because they've bitten off more than what they ready to deal with, man. See, they knew that Iran was capable, and that's why they was kind of hesitating to go into Iran, you see. But now they finding out. Okay, now they effed around and found out what Iran is all about. Okay, and they definitely about to see Iran's true capability in the coming days. Okay, so this would be Revelation 16 and 12, and it says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. All right, so when the river Euphrates is dry, which it is now, all right, and I believe it was the brother Yakananan out of UK. You know, he brought it out in a lesson the other day that now the Euphrates River, it is now in the sign of the Greek letter omega, okay, which means the end. You see, so the river has now dried up to the point where it literally looks like the Greek letter omega, which is the end, which is an omen that's the time that we in right now, man. Okay, so once that river, well, it is pretty much dry now, but come in the warmer months, it's going to get even drier. And that's where they're going to move their boots on the ground, their troops, you know what I'm saying? They're going to move their heavy artillery, tanks, and, you know, air defense systems across that region to converge upon the land of the small hats. Okay, you're also going to have Egypt and Libya, you know, with them as well. You know, Turkey is also going to leave NATO and join with the kings of the East. Okay, so this thing is getting very, very interesting, man. And, you know, this is better than any movie. You know what I'm saying? This is better than any documentary that you could watch, man. You see what I'm saying? This is the movie of Yahweh Bashman Shai, and this thing going out with a bang. All right, so we here, man. So get ready for cyber attacks. You know, get ready for you know, famines to hit. Okay, because also you have to keep in mind that when war is going on, food production is not being sustained like that. Okay, because you're going to have a lot of missiles and bombs being dropped, but it's going to affect agriculture as well. So these famines are getting ready to hit as well in the midst of this war. All right, so a lot of things are coming down the pipe, Jake. So, hey, make sure that you staying prayed up. You know, make sure that you, you know, really being on point in these times, man, because the Lord is bringing it. All right, and you know what I'm saying, you're going to need the blood of the Lamb in order to endure and have a, you know, sane and sound mind in these times, man, while everybody else is going to be crashing out and bugging out. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out, Lord willing. This lesson's been edifying through the Vakakadash, called Lord Yahweh Bashmel Shai, Bashim Rakakadash. And until next time, shalom to the elect.